Yo, these are the top 10 jazz albums, in my opinion, and maybe the 10 top jazz albums of all times. It was really hard for me to put them in order, but I tried my best, and here goes. Number 10, Remember Shakti by John McLaughlin. The album is amazing because the band is getting reunited. Hussein on tabla, John McLaughlin, and the whole band is just all marvelous musicians. The communication between them is amazing. It's a different thing. It's not exactly jazz language, but it's just beautiful. It's on such high level rhythmically and emotionally and spiritually, so I find it just amazing. Number 9, Relaxing with the Miles Davis Quintet. So that album I used to listen when I just started listening to jazz. I made a cassette tape for the car because my parents had a cassette in their car thing. I just looped it for years. So yeah, I just listened to that album a lot when I was in Israel. I remember driving the car and just listening to it, and it's fun times. And I know all the solos by heart and all that vibe. Number 8, 1999 to 2000 Pat Metheny tree. As a guitar player, Pat Metheny is definitely an influence. I tried not to transcribe Pat Metheny because I think it's dangerous. I still checked out definitely a few things, and that album where he's playing some standards and some of his original compositions is really remarkable. Really so good, just everything about it I really love. And I like live albums too. I like the energy a lot of times as a listener, so I find that really strong. Number 7, Night Train. Night Train by Oscar Peterson. So when I get into things, I like looping them, and Night Train was definitely, all these albums I looped a lot, but Night Train was definitely one of these albums. I remember deleting all my music on my phone and just looping that for about 3 months. I actually even went to sleep with that for about 3 months. It was on repeat, literally 24/7. Just really wanted to get the vibe for that album and to learn some stuff from it, transcribing a little bit and knowing the album well. Again, I think I talk about it sometimes when people ask me about how to practice and stuff like that, so I always say surround yourself with what it is that you want to learn. So I'll be very meticulous about the stuff that I listen to and surround myself. And when I was trying to learn jazz and bebop in a very clear way, so I would just loop the hell out of things until I really know them. Because again, I think with music there's a lot of information that we can't really explain and express in words. That's why it's music. So the process of repetition and listening and trying to get it in our system is really important. Hello there. Number 6, Still Live, Keith Jarrett. It's a double album with the trio. Yeah, I always like trios. I think most of the records here in general are trio albums. Not all of them, but a big percentage of those are trio albums. It's so good. I don't know how to explain it. Just really going for it. And even they mess up the form, but I don't care. It's just so good. The album is just remarkably a piece of art. Started listening to it again about a week or two ago, and it's just brilliant. I feel like the intention in Keith Jarrett is always like that, and all the artists here, I guess they're on that level, but there's something about that album. Again, it's a live session. I just feel like they're so in the moment, and it's so deep emotionally, and just the solos are kind of perfect, and there's always those moments of interaction, and there's a feeling of unexpectancy. Could you say that? Is that in English?
No.
There's a feeling of something unexpected. So you can't say unexpectancy, but that's what I wanted to say. I want to say there is a feeling of unexpectancy, but I'll say there is a feeling of the unexpected. To expect the unexpected, expectedly. Number 5. That's Ahmad Jamal at the Pershing. It's a live record as well, trio, just Vernel Fournier. It's amazing. Just check it out. It's one of the most important albums, I think, in jazz history. I feel all these albums are cornerstones, but this album I feel also affected a lot of people, including Miles Davis, which recorded most of these standards after that album was out. The use of space, the interaction, the groove is just amazing. Number 4, Soul Station, Hank Mobley, one of the best albums in jazz. This is jazz. I transcribed most of this album, most of the sax solos, some of the piano solos. That's Wynn Kelly on piano. It's just, if you want to talk about swing, this is swing. I have no words to express. If you want to study jazz and play bebop, this is something you need to have in your soul. Number 3, Brenn Mellow, Live at the Village Vanguard, Volume 4. It just did, yeah. It's kind of like the end. What can you say after that? I mean, it's when I listened to that first time, I didn't understand. I was kind of shocked. I looped that album for many years. I still listen to that album a lot. I just love this album. It's amazing. Everything about it is amazing. The sound. James Farber mixed that album. I worked with James as well, and I remember like asking him a lot about that album because the sound is so tight. It's just amazing. That album is really bringing jazz to another level. That it was recorded in 1999 live at the Village Vanguard, which is a jazz club here in New York City. It's a small club, but you know, one of the more important and known ones. Really good recording happened there. It's a nice sounding room. The trio really pushed jazz in a lot of ways. Brad playing 5 and 7 and different odd meters, the sound of modern jazz, and not swing, more straight, right? Jorge and Larry just clocking on a different level. Yeah, this album is amazing, remarkable, and just the communication is just beautiful. It's like seeing and hearing Brad's ideas and mine is really just incredible. And I was very obsessed about this album, so I tried to find other videos from that period of time. I did find some other videos and some recordings. You do see that the trio had a very strong concept about each one of the songs. So if you check out other recordings in Stockholm of Solar around that date or about a year or two apart, so you see they have the same concept, some of the same elements in the solo, but it's so strong and so crystallized by the time they played at the Vanguard. So it's just so beautiful to see it. But they are humans. I mean, they definitely worked these things out and understood how to build it and use these elements that they know and points of departure to create. So that was also something that made me happy to know that it was definitely crafted a lot. But this is so beautiful. It made me happy to know it was crafted a lot because I felt like I could something to aspire. It's not this sort of geniusy and remarkable playing is not coming out of nowhere. It's a lot of work and a lot of process and thought that was spent in order to get there. So it's not just like, oh, he's a genius, it just happened. It was, yeah, he's very talented. All these musicians are very talented. They also worked very hard on their craft in order to get there, and it's years of process and years of understanding and trying things out and solidifying ideas in the solo, within the group, within the sound. So that was something that I was very interested to research with these artists. Number 2, Portraits in Jazz, Bill Evans. Bill Evans was a huge influence. I transcribed some of the solos on that album too. I even wrote down some of them. It's, yeah, just really hard to play on guitar, but it's great. I mean, everything about it is super beautiful. Always fresh, always super grooving, and almost, it's very personal. It's very musical, and he's always in the moment, taking ideas from the band, from Scott LaFaro or whoever bass player is playing with, and making the music in the moment. Although he has like things that of course he crafted and figured out, but it's just so strong. It's so strong, and their communication within the band is so strong. And I also like the parts that are clearly crafted. I mean, the heads and how they spend time and really building that relationship is beautiful for me too. So I like checking out the same thing as Brad, like listening to other versions and seeing what's parallel. I transcribed one of Bill Evans' tunes, Falls for Debbie, and I was practicing to play it on the guitar, and I did, but it was an interesting process because I checked a lot of versions, and eventually I decided to transcribe the version he was playing at New Jazz Conception, so he's playing a version there, so that's the one I transcribed, and it was a lot of work. It was really hard to adjust it for guitar, but that was interesting. The same way like that you can hear him play Autumn Leaves in different videos and seeing how he's voicing things a little bit differently, although the arrangement is very close and very much the same. Number 1, Smoking at the Half Note, Wes Montgomery. Yeah, it's just that swing, that's jazz. I remember hearing that album and completely being blown away, and I again looked at, transcribed a bunch of these solos. I remember that part of the solo on the first blues, it's a blues in F, and I remember listening to it for the first time, and then when Kelly, the piano player, is playing like a F7 sharp 9, and this like hit on the piano, and Wes is playing a solo, and he just stops and play that back to him. And I remember starting to study music and starting to get into jazz. How is that possible? This guy is playing something and the other guy just hears it and repeats it. You know, now of course it's an easy color to hear, right? F7 sharp 9, easy, someone plays it, I hear it immediately. And so of course all jazz musicians, because this is, you know, we do a lot of that process of tagging when we learn the music, but at that moment in time I didn't know how it works, so I just heard someone doing something and this other guy respond to it and plays it. I was really blown away. I highly recommend immersing your soul and being in that music and that album, because I think it would make us a better musician. Again, these albums are very, very jazz, and I feel like in my process of trying to play jazz and bebop, I learned so much from these albums. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Please buy pizza.